Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung News. Sawadee Krab. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. Today is what we call our group learning program, which I'll explain to you guys what that is a little bit later, where I'm actually going to be sharing teachings with you about the path to enlightenment, because we start our class with meditation to be able to help you guys train your mind. This individual that we refer to as the Buddha, he figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, and all of this is coming from training of the mind. The teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief, so you're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, growing, and developing in this life. And today, as part of our class, I'm going to be sharing with you a teaching called the Four Noble Truths. We're actually going to be exploring the first two steps of his core central teaching called the Eightfold Path. The Four Noble Truths is part of what we call right view. This is where the Buddha helps you to be able to understand the problem in the unenlightened mind, the cause of this problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. In four simple statements, you can have a real breakthrough to understanding what's causing your discontent feelings. Because oftentimes in the unenlightened state, the mind thinks that it's other people who are causing you to be angry or annoyed or frustrated. But what you can see through the teachings of the Buddha, that it's actually your own mind that's causing these feelings. This is why you can actually eliminate them. So I'm going to share teachings with you in a way that you can independently verify and see for yourself that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. That way you can have that wisdom, and now you can actually apply a real solution to be able to fix this, because that's what the teachings of the Buddha are all about, is getting to this peace and joy. But you wouldn't be able to do that if you didn't understand what was causing your anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings. So the Four Noble Truths are going to help you to be able to understand that. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting to be able to ease us into the meditation. I see some of you guys have the chanting sheets, but if you need one, they're over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to a chanting sheet. For those of you guys online, you can get this from our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and then just scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see it there. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This was the way that they used to be able to remember his teachings. So it was used as a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or any of that kind of stuff. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you've been exposed to those kinds of things as the teachings of the Buddha, those are misunderstandings of his teachings. He never did any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. He used chanting as a way to help his students remember his teachings, because everything that he taught was oral. So today we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you like to chant along, you'll be able to see that there's more benefit to your meditation, because it kind of prepares the mind a bit for meditation as you're exercising the mind. If you read the English translations of these chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't even think that the Buddha created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't go around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? Buddha wouldn't do that, because that would be ego or arrogance and putting yourself above other people. An individual who's gotten to enlightenment would see themselves as being equal to everybody. They wouldn't see themselves as being above others or below others. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, sadness, and frustration, the guilt, the shame, the stress, anxiety, and all those feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you might have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students either during his life or after his death. So I'm going to be chanting these on the way into meditation. You're welcome to join in. And then afterwards, I'm going to be coming in with some guidance where I'm essentially going to be teaching you how to meditate or instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Everyone here at the temple and anyone joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car going by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. that if your mind is in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated, because the mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence while you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing. But with the mind's craving for permanence, it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. And when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets angry, frustrated, irritated, annoyed, or some other discontent feeling. So when you're in meditation and you hear sounds, just understand that those sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away. This is normal. This is the way the world works. And you can rest in meditation with your peaceful mind, understanding that the world's functioning exactly the way that it was intended to function. After that period of time of quietness, we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand the very beginning teachings of the Buddha. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would use these different positions at different times in your journey to enlightenment to be able to help you, to be able to train your mind, helping the body to be in a comfortable position. It's kind of like a tool belt that you're assembling these different tools to be able to help you during your journey to enlightenment. So all of our other courses and retreats, I share these different positions, helping you guys to understand how to actually practice those. But in a class like this, I'll just introduce you to the seated position so that you can get a little bit of guidance on that. But just understand that what I'm going to share with you on the seated position are just recommendations or suggestions for you to consider. There's not just one way to actually sit. If there was only one way to sit, that would be permanence, where the world is full of impermanence. All of our bodies are different, and we're going to find different things to be comfortable. So you can use something that I'm sharing with you here as a way to use to be able to maybe find something that's more comfortable. Or if there's something that you figure out on your own, you can use that too, because you're not training the body, you're actually training the mind. That's what the Buddha is teaching you. So as long as your body's comfortable, where it's not painful and it's not luxurious, that's what's important. So you might consider these things as potential recommendations. So if you're on the floor, in a chair, in a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair, you can sit however you like. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to help soften your seat a bit. And if you bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This will get your hips up in the air and lessen the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing is true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With your sternum up and your shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Because what meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you would like the mind to be attentive and alert for the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to do this chanting on the way into meditation. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami. สุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังปุตโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาปุตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Good morning to everyone online who's joining as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We actually just restarted this program last week where I gave students kind of an introduction to the program, where today we're actually going to be going into the heart of some of the teachings of the Buddha. At the very beginning of the program like this, I take students in depth into the core central teaching of the Buddha called the Eightfold Path. Over the next 3 Sundays, I'm going to be diving into detail in this core central teaching that the Buddha shares called the Eightfold Path. Today we're going to be exploring right view and right intention, which is the wisdom section of the path to enlightenment in this Eightfold Path. And then the following Sunday, we're going to be learning about the moral conduct, where the Buddha is helping you to understand the natural law of karma, of cause and effect, and certain decisions that you make in terms of the way you interact with people, because how you interact with people is going to produce a certain result for you. And the Buddha teaches you wise decision-making around the way you interact with people through your speech, actions, and your livelihood. And then the following Sunday, I'm going to teach you the mental discipline, which is going to help you to be able to understand how to train your mind so that you can then implement things like the moral conduct. About 5 weeks from now, I'm going to start in chapter 1 in this book. This is the text that we use for this 7-month program, where each Sunday I walk students through chapter by chapter, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. You can actually get this book for free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it yourself. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. This is a core central text and a central item that would be wise for you to be able to deeply understand the path to enlightenment and really getting started on the path. Because the Buddha's teachings start with this right view, which is what I'm going to help you guys to understand today by gradually walking you through this teaching. And I'm going to walk you through it in a way that you can independently verify the teachings, because the Buddha's teachings aren't based in belief. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life. You actually learn, examine, and investigate his teachings. You then reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or false. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And that's where the actual real transformation is occurring. If you've been exposed to rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer, and you thought that these were actually part of the teachings of the Buddha, this isn't part of the teachings of the Buddha. He never taught those kinds of things. He's teaching you to cultivate wisdom about the world around you. The reason why the mind struggles and has difficulties is because it just lacks wisdom about the natural laws of existence. That's what the Buddha taught, is these natural laws of existence. And when you're learning his teachings, it's important that you examine those teachings, you reflect on them to verify whether they're true or false, and then you practice his teachings. And I'm going to show you how to do this as I walk you through the teachings today, so you can see, based in the original words of the Buddha, what he actually taught about his teachings and what he did not teach as well. Because now, 2,500 years after his death, there's a lot of misunderstandings about the teachings of the Buddha in the world. And if you're interested in getting to this peaceful and joyful mental state that the Buddha taught, you would need to study with his original teachings. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, you will have eliminated all those discontent feelings that I was talking about. The anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of those can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. And it starts with this first teaching of right view, because in right view, you're going to learn what is the problem in the mind, the cause of this problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. So I'm going to walk you through this in a way that you could have a breakthrough today, where you can see once and for all what is truly causing these feelings. Because we walk around believing that it's other people that cause these feelings. And as long as you're doing that, you might be pushing people aside out of your life, thinking that they are the problem, and that if you push them out of your life, that you're going to solve your problem. But you can see that it didn't solve your problem, because you still get angry or frustrated or annoyed. If they were the true cause of your problem, when you push people out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or what someone might do when they think that the problem is external is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And this is just causing damage in your relationships. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. And oftentimes people think that that anger and hostility in your mind is being caused by somebody else, but it's actually coming from within your own mind, and that's why you can eliminate it. Or this third thing that an individual will do when they don't understand right view is they'll tend to put expectations on people and try to control people and pressure them to do things their way. And not only are you maybe choosing to do this with people around you, but maybe people are actually choosing to do this to you. Maybe people are pushing you aside. Maybe they're being bitter and harsh and hostile to you, or maybe they're putting their expectations on you and trying to control you and pressure you to do things their way. So you're going to understand today by the end of our class why this is occurring and how to actually solve this, because it's no fun being in life, walking through life with anger and hostility and stress, anxiety, guilt, shame, and fear, and all these other feelings. As I go today, I'm going to pause a few times, opening up for questions, because as somebody's learning the teachings of the Buddha, you might have questions that you need to ask in order to clarify what it is that the Buddha is teaching you. If you have questions here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl in the center of the room. If you'd like to ask a question, I would just ask if you could get a microphone, bring that back to your seat, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and then just hold that up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. So that'll help the people online to be able to hear what it is that you have to say. And then if you're not using this microphone, if you could just turn it off, that'll help us to not get feedback in the speakers. And then if you keep these microphones with you, you can share it with somebody around you, because they might have a question, or you might even have more than one question. You can use that microphone multiple times. And then for anybody who's online, if you guys would like to ask questions, you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. The Buddha teaches that when you're learning his teachings, it's wise to listen with eager ears. If you just sit back and let the words of the Buddha roll over your head, you're not actually going to be able to understand what it is that he has to share with you. So it's important to actively learn the teachings of the Buddha, and he teaches you to learn with eager ears. So as you're learning today, don't believe anything that it is that I have to share with you, and don't believe anything that anybody else shares with you about the teachings of the Buddha. If the true teachings of the Buddha, you should be able to independently verify those teachings. Whether you're reading the books that I write, whether you're listening to me teach in classes, never believe anything that I share, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. In order to get to enlightenment, you need to cultivate wisdom in the mind. You need to be able to see the truth for yourself, and you can't get to that through belief. So that's why I encourage you to learn, examine, and investigate the teachings through listening with eager ears, and then reflect on those teachings. And I'm going to show you how to do that, where you can independently verify the things that I'm sharing with you are the truth. And then you can practice the teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to be able to experience the real transformation. So this first teaching of right view, these are the words of the Buddha, because this eightfold path that you're learning through the next 3 Sundays, this is the core central teaching of the Buddha. The way you might think about this eightfold path is it's like a speaker system, that you might have these 8 dials that you tweak these 8 individual dials, and you get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. Well, your mind is the same way. There's these 8 individual dials that you can tweak these 8 little dials. And now as you integrate this into your life more and more closely, you'll experience more and more improvement to the condition of the mind. Not only will you eliminate all those discontent feelings, but you'll notice focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory in the mind. Because when your mind has these pollutions that the Buddha discovered and they haven't been uprooted, the mind will lack focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice by the time you get to enlightenment that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming, that you don't have bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind any longer. You'll get to the point where your mind can't even experience a bad mood any longer, that it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. Because as long as you're experiencing these types of things, your mind is not yet awake. This is an indication to you that your mind is not yet trained to experience the enlightened mental state. So it all starts with this right view. And here's what the Buddha says on right view in the Eightfold Path. He says, "In what, monks, is right view? It is, monks, the wisdom of discontentedness, the wisdom of the cause of discontentedness, the wisdom of the elimination of discontentedness, and the wisdom of the way of practice leading to the elimination of discontentedness. This is called right view." So in this teaching, in this core central teaching of the Eightfold Path, which integrates teachings from other places, in right view, he's pointing to a teaching called the Four Noble Truths. This is him saying that is right view. The teaching of the Four Noble Truths is right view. Because here in right view, he's not going to repeat his entire teaching on the Four Noble Truths, because the Four Noble Truths is quite long. And just like a lot of his other teachings, it's very in-depth, his teachings. So underneath of this line, I've placed the top section of the Four Noble Truths so that you can build the confidence that what he's talking about here in right view is the Four Noble Truths. You can see the connection between these two teachings. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the Four Noble Truths in depth so that you can understand what this teaching is. Because in 4 simple statements that you can independently verify, you'll be able to have a breakthrough to understanding what's causing your feelings. This is the very first teaching of the Buddha. After he got to enlightenment, in his first 5 students, he shared this particular teaching of the Four Noble Truths. And any time new students would start to study with him, he would teach them the Four Noble Truths first. Because his whole goal of the path to enlightenment is to help you get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, eliminating those discontent feelings. But you wouldn't be able to eliminate them if you didn't know what was causing them. And that's what this Four Noble Truths is going to help you to understand. In order to teach you the Four Noble Truths, I need to first teach you the 3 universal truths. These are like building blocks that are going to help you to understand the Four Noble Truths. So I'm going to walk you through this in a way that you can independently verify, and then we're going to get into the Four Noble Truths. So this first universal truth, we call it a universal truth, and we call it the Four Noble Truths because the Buddha knew that they were true. I know that they're true, and other people know that they're true, but you need to know that they're true. And that's why you're not interested in believing them. So this universal truth of impermanence is explaining to you the way the world is. He's helping you to understand the way the world is. He's not teaching you the way the world should be, and that if everybody follows rules and commandments, the world will become a better place. He's teaching you the way the world is. That's why the mind has struggles and difficulties. That's why it has stress and anxiety and all these other feelings, because the mind doesn't understand the way the world is, and it's trying to navigate the world through this lack of wisdom. But when you understand the way the world is, you can navigate the world more peacefully. So what he's explaining to you is that the world is full of impermanence, that things are constantly changing, that things will arise, they will change, and then they will fade away. Anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind are constantly changing. These are called conditioned objects. They arise, they change, and they fade away. Then there's something called unconditioned objects. Unconditioned objects do not arise, they do not change, and they do not fade away. The natural laws that the Buddha taught are unconditioned objects. That's why his teachings are timeless. What he taught 2,500 years ago, it's the same natural laws that exist today that existed 2,500 years ago. So that's why we can learn and study his teachings, and you can get to enlightenment today, because the natural laws are exactly the same, that they don't change. They don't arise, change, or fade away. Now, people's memories in the books and people's understanding of his teachings, that's all changed. But the natural laws themselves, they haven't changed. And that's why you're interested in getting back to what the Buddha actually taught as these natural laws. So conditioned objects are impermanent. They arise, they change, and they fade away. And everything you see around you is constantly changing. In this material world, everything is constantly changing. Anything you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind. So this is just a little bit of the learning about the universal truth of impermanence. But now you don't believe that. You need to move this into reflection to be able to see the truth for yourself. And what you do is you look around the world, because you've been in the world long enough that you can independently verify whether this is true or false. So what I suggest you do is look at things that you're familiar with and ask yourself if it's permanent or is it impermanent. So maybe start with something like the physical body. Ask yourself, is this body permanent, meaning it's exactly the same and it never changes? Or is this body impermanent, meaning it's constantly changing? So what would you say? Is this body permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? It's constantly changing. Ever since the egg and the sperm came together, this body's been constantly changing. We get taller, we get shorter, we get bigger, we get smaller, right? We get pimples and moles, we get wrinkles on our face, we get gray hair. Some of us start losing our hair. Our teeth grow in, then they fall out, then they grow in again. Then we start getting cavities. This is constant change with the physical body. What about your relationships? If your relationships are permanent, it means you've had all the same people in your life your entire life. Or if your relationships are impermanent, you've had people coming and going in and out of your life your entire life. So are your relationships permanent or are they impermanent? They're impermanent, right? They're constantly changing. What about your bank account? Is your bank account permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? Constantly changing, going up and down and up and down. Some people's goes up, up, up. Some people's go down, 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 right? So the bank account is constantly changing. What about the weather? Is that permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? It's constantly changing. So we could go on and on and on like this. And if you need to do that in order to independently verify what I'm sharing with you, that the world is impermanent, you should do that. Because this is a building block to help you understand the Four Noble Truths. When you're walking down the street and you see a crack in the sidewalk, that's impermanence. When you look at a tree and you see the green leaves in the tree and the brown leaves on the ground, that's impermanence. You look at the wood planks on the floor of the temple. Some of them are longer, shorter. Some of them are darker, different colors. You can see that that's impermanence. You can see that we have a certain number of people in the class when we got started, and now people will come and people will leave. This is just change. This is impermanence. So there's constant impermanence around you all the time. And this is a building block to help you understand the Four Noble Truths when we get to it. Then there's the second universal truth, which I refer to as discontentedness. If you studied the teachings of the Buddha in other places, you might have heard this referred to as suffering. I don't use this word because it doesn't accurately describe what the Buddha was teaching, but I'll explain to you what the Buddha was teaching on this important topic, and then I'm going to circle back and explain to you why I don't use the word suffering. What the Buddha is talking about here in this second universal truth is he's describing the unenlightened mind and what the unenlightened mind experiences. And what the unenlightened mind experiences is discontent, discontentedness, or this discontented state of mind. These are referred to as conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, the mind is going to experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. Pleasant feelings are things like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. It's very pleasant for you to experience those, and those are based on some condition. Then there's sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. These are very painful for the mind to experience. Then there's feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. I've put boredom and loneliness here, but some people say that's very painful for them. So you could put that in the painful category. But shyness is a good example. It's not painful. It's not pleasant. It's neither painful nor pleasant. Or say somebody that was, if you were on public transportation, that you didn't know came and sat really close to you and your body's touching their body. You might say the feeling that you're experiencing is not painful or pleasant. Maybe you're just uncomfortable. You're dissatisfied in that situation. So these are the three feelings that the unenlightened mind experiences. And these are conditioned feelings that they're going to be experienced based on some condition. So if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get really happy and excited, it's like, oh yes, it's sunny outside. I'm going to go hiking today. This is wonderful. This is a conditioned feeling. Based on the condition that it's sunny, you're now experiencing a feeling, a pleasant feeling of happiness. But then you go take a shower and you come out and you see it's raining, and now you experience painful feelings like anger or frustration. Oh, I can't go hiking today. Oh, this is such a bummer. I don't want to go outside when it's raining. Oh, this is the mind experiencing conditioned, painful feelings. An enlightened being doesn't experience that. An enlightened being wakes up in the morning and they see it's sunny outside. It's like, sweet, I'm going to go hiking. This is going to be great. I've been interested in going this hiking trail for a while. And now when they go take a shower and they come out and it's raining, it's like, oh, it's raining. Well, I guess I can't go hiking. Maybe I'll stay home and read a book, or maybe I'll go to the mall. Maybe I will invite my friends over for some food. They can maintain their happiness because they're not experiencing conditional happiness. They're experiencing unconditional happiness, where the mind can just always be joyful. There doesn't need to be any condition met in order for that joy to be there. But in the unenlightened state, you'll experience conditioned feelings that based on some condition, you will be happy or sad or some other feeling. Where if it's sunny outside, you'll be happy. And if it's raining outside, you'll be sad or frustrated. If your bank account balance is up here, you'll be happy and excited. But then when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. These are conditioned feelings. The unenlightened mind is going up and down and up and down. So this is called discontentedness, where the mind is shaken up. It's unsteady. It's uncalm. And what the Buddha is teaching you to do is how to get beyond this, where your mind can just always be joyful, cheerful, glad, and uplifted. And there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for your mind to experience that. But as long as you're experiencing conditioned feelings, that means your mind is forming a feeling based on something external. That means if the weather is this, if my mom and dad does this, if my boss does this, if my bank account is this, if I have this kind of house and this kind of car, then I will be happy, right? So the ability to be happy is shrinking because the more conditions that you put on your mind that you can only be happy when these things occur, you're sabotaging your ability to be happy, and it's shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. This is why some people are old and grumpy. Not everybody's old and grumpy and irritable, but some people are, because they have all these conditions in their mind of what they need to be true in order to be happy. And all those things can't be true permanently because you live in an impermanent world. This is the reason why you haven't been able to experience permanent happiness, because the mind is basing its inner feelings on some condition. So you need to get to the point where you understand that these conditioned, pleasant feelings are just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones. Because if you allow your mind to have conditional, pleasant feelings, the painful ones are waiting for you right around the corner. So if I got so happy and excited because I got a brand new job, that means when the company goes out of business or they fire me, or perhaps the company lays you off, you'll be sad and frustrated. And sometimes that distance of time is so far from each other that you don't even see the connection. That if you get happy and excited because of having this new job, it's only a matter of time before that new job doesn't exist anymore. And now you're not at that job and you're going to be sad or frustrated or irritated. So if you allow your mind to get conditioned pleasant feelings, which are only temporary, then that means the painful feelings are going to be coming after that. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do is how to get beyond this, where you can experience unconditioned happiness, where there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for there to be happiness in the mind. So this is something that the mind needs to learn how to do because it doesn't know how to do that in the unenlightened state. And we're going to help you to be able to understand why when we get to the Four Noble Truths. So this is referred to as discontent, discontented, or discontentedness, where the mind is all shaken up. And if you've ever been so excited or that you tripped and fell or you dropped something, you know that your mind, when it's experiencing those conditioned pleasant feelings, it's discontent. Now, some people refer to this as suffering. You might have heard that before, where I don't use that word because the word suffering describes these painful feelings really, really well. When you're angry, sad, experiencing guilt or shame or fear, stress, anxiety, you might say that you're suffering. But it doesn't describe the pleasant feelings or the feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. Like if your boss came in and gave you a raise and said, hey, you're doing such a great job, I'm going to give you $20,000 a year more. And you were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, boss. You're so great. You probably wouldn't say you were suffering in that situation, right? Or if your mom was like, hey, I'm going to come over and cook that recipe that you really have enjoyed ever since you were a kid. I heard you got this brand new house and I'd like to come visit you and see your house and cook this favorite dish for you. And you were like, oh, great, Mom, that's so wonderful. You're going to come visit, right? If you probably wouldn't say you were suffering in that situation. Or say the neither painful nor pleasant feelings. Like say someone came in on public transportation and they sat down next to you and your body was touching their body. You probably wouldn't say you were suffering in that situation. So I don't use the word suffering because it doesn't describe the full spectrum of feelings and emotions that the unenlightened mind is experiencing here. Because the Buddha is describing the pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant feelings. So what I would encourage you to do is use the word discontent, discontented, and discontentedness as it relates to this universal truth. Because if you're using the word suffering, you're only understanding 33% of his teachings, which is the painful feelings. You're not understanding 66% of his teachings. So if you're missing 66% of a teacher's teachings, how could you ever get to the goal of enlightenment? So the word discontentedness helps you to understand this full spectrum of feelings and emotions that are in the unenlightened state. So now that I've shared with you intellectually what this universal truth is, don't believe it. Because what I just described to you is what the unenlightened mind experiences. You need to move this into reflection to be able to independently verify it for yourself. Because if it's a universal truth, then you should be able to see it for yourself. Because you know your mind is unenlightened, and I just explained to you what the unenlightened mind experiences, conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, you'll experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant. So you can look at the full spectrum of feelings and emotions that you've had over the course of your life and ask yourself, does this explain that? Is there any feeling that you experience that doesn't fit into one of these three categories? And if you have a question about that, when we get to the question period, just let me know and I will help you to understand. And sometimes when people hear me talk about these discontent feelings and that we're eliminating this, people are like, hold on a second, David, I'm eliminating happiness or excitement. Like, isn't that what I live for? And if I'm not experiencing happiness and excitement, wouldn't my mind just be kind of dull and numb and kind of mundane? The answer is no, that's not what the Buddha is teaching you. What he's teaching you is to eliminate the conditionality of these feelings, that you can only be happy when these things are occurring, because that shrinks your ability to be happy. He's helping you to open up your mind where it can be free, where you can actually be happy at all times, no matter what's happening in your life. Right now, you might think that these is what you're looking for in life, is that you're looking for these conditioned feelings. And this is why maybe you feel like your living life is to get to that happiness and excitement. But that's only temporary. The conditioned feelings are only temporary. What the Buddha is guiding you towards is unconditioned mental qualities where your mind is always cheerful and glad and bright and uplifted. And the Four Noble Truths are going to help you to understand how that's going to occur. So this is the second universal truth. And you need to independently verify this for yourself to see that it's true. And if you have questions, let me know when we get to that point. Then there's this third universal truth, the universal truth of non-self. This is actually a solution to one of the problems that the Buddha discovered in the mind. So let me explain to you the problem first, and then I'll explain to you this solution. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind. They're referred to as the 10 fetters. They're referred to as fetters because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were someone that they were trying to keep confined to a certain area, like a prisoner, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. This was a shackle and a chain and a ball. And they would just keep you in a field. And this is how they would keep you confined to that area. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells. Where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would just attach a fetter to your ankle and leave you in this open field. So when he discovers these 10 pollutions in the mind, ultimately figuring out how to uproot them and eliminate them as well, which is what produces enlightenment, he describes them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state, experiencing the discontentedness over and over and over and over again. But just like a prisoner, if you release that shackle off of the ankle, they're now free. The same thing is true about the human mind, that when you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, now the mind is now free. And now you're experiencing the peace and the joy. And this is coming through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, that you gradually train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. So this universal truth of non-self is the solution to the very first fetter, the very first pollution of the mind. The very first pollution is called personal existence view. This is where the mind has confusion or misunderstanding that it thinks that this body or this mind is you and who you are as a person. So the mind will cling to a self-image or a self-identity, wanting other people to perceive you in a certain way. And you can only be happy if people perceive you in the way that you want them to perceive you. So if you've ever, say, been in a social situation where you've spilt something on your clothing and you were embarrassed by that, that was your personal existence view. Your mind was clinging to this body, wanting it to be permanent and wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you could only be happy when you were being perceived the way you wanted to be perceived. Or say you ever looked in a mirror and you saw a wrinkle or a mole or a pimple or a gray hair and you were shaken up by that, that's your personal existence view, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way, clinging to this body, this self-image, wanting it to be permanent when in reality it is impermanent. Or say you ever stood in front of your closet thinking, who am I going to see today and how do I want to look? And maybe you put on certain clothes and you looked in the mirror and you're like, that's not how I want to look. And then you put on some other clothes and you're like, no, that's not how I want to look. And then you put on a third pair and you're like, okay, now I feel comfortable to go outside. This is your personal existence view, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way, thinking that this body is who you are. If you were like me when I was a little kid, I used to get out gel and mousse before going to school, and I would run it through my hair and get every little hair in exactly the right spot. And I would do this sometimes so long that I would miss the school bus, right? So you might have done these kinds of things when you were growing up, or even maybe now, that the mind is clinging to this body, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you can only feel comfortable when you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived. That's your personal existence view. That's related to the self-image. But then there's a self-identity that you might be clinging to based on your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, or your job or occupation. You might be clinging to this as who you think you are. Like, I am American, or I am a police officer, or any of this other I am around your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, any number of different things. So if you've ever been in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend and you thought, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend, or I am a husband, I am a wife. And now when you guys were together, there was a certain amount of comfort in that. But when you guys broke up, your mind didn't identify with I am single. And you might have felt uncomfortable in that situation. And you felt the way to solve that is to hurry up and get right back into another relationship. Or say you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, somebody's talking in a positive way about the nationality that you have in your mind. They might say, all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. Never heard this before, but maybe somebody might say that, right? And now you feel so happy and excited, right? And you're like, wow, they're talking about me, right? But then maybe 2 tables over, you hear people talking in a degrading or disparaging way about the nationality. All Americans are blah, 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 right? And now if you have that in your mind as an identity of who you think you are, now you're going to be angry or frustrated in that situation. Or say you have a certain job or occupation of maybe I am a police officer, right? And you're holding that in your mind. You've been doing this job for 10 years, 15 years, but now you get injured or you retire or you get fired. And now you're driving a taxi. Your mind is identifying as I am a police officer, right? And now you're disgruntled and frustrated because you don't identify with I am a taxi driver. So the mind can hold on to any number of things of who you think you are as a person. It can be your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, but it can be any number of things. I had a student one time contact me. They said, David, I'm having a really hard time ever since COVID, and I need your help. I said, okay, what's going on? How can I help you? He said, well, I'm a good tipper. And, I go into the different places and I tip many different places. And I consider myself a really great tipper. But ever since COVID, I go into places where I didn't usually tip. And now I place my order, like maybe at a coffee shop, and I spend 30 seconds placing an order. They spend a minute or two making my drink and I get it back. But when I pay now after COVID, they turn around this computer screen and it says that I should pay with my contactless payment. And it says tip 15%, 20%, 25%. And I don't think I should tip in those situations. And I don't tip. And I feel very uncomfortable in this situation. Now, I want to assure you, David, I am a great tipper. What's going on in this situation? Why am I so uncomfortable? And I said, well, that's your personal existence view. Your mind is identifying with I am a great tipper. And when you tip, you feel happy and you feel great because you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived. But when you don't tip, your mind is uncomfortable with that. And now you're not being perceived the way you want to be perceived. So your mind can cling to any number of things of who you think you are as a person. Even maybe in the past, you used drugs and alcohol, and you might have been taught to identify with, I am an alcoholic, or I am an addict, right? And they teach you this because they're interested in you never going back to using drugs and alcohol again. But when you adopt that identity of who you think you are based on decisions that you made, there can be guilt and shame in your mind, thinking that you're less of a person. But that's not true. The choices that this individual made in the past to use drugs and alcohol doesn't mean today that I need to identify with I am an alcoholic or I am an addict. But that's what the mind will tend to do. And now it will form feelings about that. So there's this confusion or misunderstanding that the mind has that this body or this self-image, this identity or this mind is who you are as a person. And the Buddha is teaching you that that's not true, that there is no self, that this personal existence view that the mind's holding on to is just going to get in your way of having peace and joy, because you can only be happy when people are perceiving you the way that you want to be perceived. So you need to get to the point where you realize that there is a body, there is a mind and they've come together for this existence, but that doesn't determine who you are as a person. So there is a body and there is a mind, and we might call the combination of these two things a person, but your mind doesn't have to adopt any kind of identity around those things. So even sitting here today, sharing these teachings with you, some people might think he is a Buddhist teacher, right? Okay, well, I'm performing that role of sharing the teachings of the Buddha, but my mind doesn't have to adopt the identity of I am a Buddhist teacher. Because then when people say all Buddhist teachers are lovely and kind and warm and gentle, you'd get pleasant feelings. But then when people say something degrading or disparaging about Buddhist teachers, you'd get frustrated or angry if you adopt that identity in your mind. So it's a matter of understanding that this body was born on a certain land, but your mind doesn't have to adopt the identity of I am Chinese, or I am Lithuanian, or I am Italian, or I am Icelandic, or I am Canadian, or any of this other I am. You don't have to adopt that into your mind as who you think you are. But there's other people that have plans for you to adopt that identity, right? We have flags and national anthems and sports teams that people cheer and cheer and cheer. We've been taught ever since we were born to have that in our mind, and we adopt that as who we think we are as a person. And the Buddha is teaching you that this is not you. It's not who you are as a person. And as long as you allow your mind to adopt these kinds of things, it's only a matter of time before you experience discontentedness. Sometimes people have this in such a strong way. They might go to their family in their home country and they say, Mom, Dad, I don't even know who I am anymore. I need to go find myself. I need to go find my true self. I'm going to go to Thailand and try to find myself, right? And now someone might come to a place like Thailand and they're looking around and they're doing different things and they're trying to find themselves. They're trying to find their true self. In fact, you might be trying to do that, is finding your true self. Well, what the Buddha says is you're not going to find yourself here because it doesn't exist. You might find new friends, new hobbies, new activities, maybe a new job perhaps, but none of that stuff is you. But if somebody holds on to that stuff thinking that's who they are, they might go back to their home country and say, Mom and Dad, I found myself. I know who I am again, right? I found myself in Thailand. Okay, well now 3 years later, 5 years later, when all that stuff changes, you don't know who you are anymore, right? So you're right back into the same problem. So the Buddha is teaching you not to cling to any of this as who you think you are as a person. So this is a little bit of the intellectual learning on this universal truth of non-self. So now I'm going to take it into reflection and show you how to independently verify this, and then I'll open up for questions so you can ask questions. Okay, so some people understand this universal truth of non-self when I first start talking about it. Other times they don't, because their mind has been accumulating this for so long. So here's some ways that you can independently verify this. Think about yourself when you were a child, teenager, early adulthood, and now. Think about your personality and your character, the way that you viewed yourself. Has it been exactly the same through all those 4 phases of your life, or has it been constantly changing? When you were a child, teenage years, early adulthood, and then now. Has it been exactly the same, or has it been changing? It's been changing, right? So you can see there is no permanent self. Now, here's another way. Let's just say your arm is amputated and you only have one hand and one arm. Are you less of a person? You're not less of a person, right? There's less body, but there's not less of a person, right? If you answer this question, no, I'm not less of a person. Just because I have less arm, less body, doesn't mean that I'm less of a person. You can see intellectually. You understand that this body is not you. But in the heat of the moment, your mind is confused. When somebody says something either positive or negative, either agreeable or disagreeable about this body, you will form feelings based on that. So intellectually, you can understand that this body is not you. Because if your arm is amputated, you're not less of a person. But in the heat of the moment, that pollution of mind, the personal existence view, makes you think that this body is you. So when someone says something either positive or negative, you're going to experience feelings about that. Here's a third way that you can independently verify this. Point to yourself. Where are you? Can you point? Where are you? She's pointing. She's like, right here. I'm right here. Right? So that's what people typically do is they'll point here, right? Or maybe they'll point here. They'll say, I am here, right? Well, what you need to do is look at what you're pointing to. You're pointing to a shirt. So ask yourself, is that who you are? That shirt that you're wearing? If we took off the shirt and we held it up and pointed to it, is that you, the shirt that you're wearing? That's not you, right? So, okay, let's throw that away. That's not you. Where are you? Someone might point. Well, what are you pointing to? You're pointing to skin. Ask yourself, is that who you are? That skin that you've got, is that you? That's not you, right? If we took off the skin and held it up and pointed to it, is that you? No, that's not you. So let's throw that away, right? Where are you? Someone might point again. You've got bones and muscle tissue. You've got organs and fluid. None of those bits and pieces and parts are you. But the mind keeps clinging to all of this, thinking that that's who you are. And now it will experience feelings based on that. So the Buddha is teaching you that there is no self. And ultimately, you're going to need to be able to train your mind where you realize that this body is not you. And it takes time for that to occur. And then realizing that the identity that your mind is holding on to, that's not you either. So I'm just introducing you to this universal truth at this point. But now it's time for you to reflect and ask any questions that you'd like in order to get clarification. So if you have questions on any of these three universal truths, let me know. Remember, we have the microphones in the white bowl here in the classroom. And then for those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So let me know if you guys have questions.
It's about the identity part.
Mm-hmm.
So question is, like, is there such a thing like identity? And the second question, if so, what is identity according to Buddha? Is it something defined by actions? Is it something defined by feelings?
The mind is going to think that there is an identity and it's going to want to cling to that. That's the pollution. That's the personal existence view. But the Buddha is teaching you how to eliminate that out of the mind. Here, he's just explaining to you the problem and the solution, but there's other parts of his teachings that explains to you how to eliminate it. I haven't explained how to eliminate it. That's not something that we're teaching in this class. I'm going to be teaching that when we get to chapter 16 of this program, because there's other things you need to know first. But there is no true identity, but the mind is going to cling to these things, thinking that this is who you are. Like, I am Italian, I am German, I am this, I am that, I'm a male, I'm a female, right? So now if someone says, oh, females are lovely and kind, you'll get excited about that. But if the mind identifies as I am a female, now when it hears something negative, it'll get frustrated or agitated. So it's not to say that we don't think of things in this way, that maybe someone might think this is a male or female, or this is someone from Italy, but it's a matter of understanding that while we might label things this way, the mind doesn't have to adopt that, because we just use this language in order to be able to describe the things that we're experiencing. But the mind, when it adopts that as who you think you are, that's where you're setting yourself up for discontentedness. So there isn't anything that you can truly put your finger on and say, this is who you are. Because as soon as you do, that thing's going to change. And now you're going to experience discontentedness. So the Buddha's actual words on this, he says that there is no you there. But the mind is going to cling to something, thinking that this is who you are. And sometimes what people ask me, maybe some of you are getting ready to ask me this, well, if I'm not the body and I'm not the mind, then what am I? This is the mind still grasping, still looking for something to grab onto and say, just tell me what I am so I can hold on to that thing. And the mind needs to get to the point where it's comfortable just understanding, no, there's nothing here. There's a body, there is a mind, and it's come together for this existence. And we call that a person or a human being, but we don't need to grab onto that as who we think we are.
Okay, so how would you, for example, describe the difference between me as a person and this lady next to me?
I look at everybody as equal, right?
Yeah.
There's physical characteristics that are different, but that doesn't define who you are. If your hair is long, if your hair is short, if you're wearing those clothes or different clothes, it's just material things. But we don't need to judge each other or label and have that label in our mind of who we think we are. Because as soon as you put that label in your mind, now you're setting yourself up for discontentedness. So even the idea of I am Buddhist, right? Someone might have that identity in their mind. The Buddha never had that identity in his mind. First off, because that didn't exist during his lifetime. But if it did exist, he wouldn't have identified with I am Buddhist. Because then as soon as everyone says something agreeable about Buddhist, you'd be happy and excited. But when someone says something disagreeable, you'd be frustrated or angry or irritated. So it's a matter of understanding that you might choose to practice the teachings of the Buddha without allowing your mind to adopt that identity of who you think you are as a person. Something you might need to think about for a while.
Yeah, it's very interesting and
Yeah.
also I would say a bit scary.
Yes, some people think that way. I know when I was working on eliminating this, it was very scary because I had all kinds of identity in my mind. It felt like you were walking off of a cliff.
Yeah.
The idea that you're letting go of all these things because you've been accumulating all these things your whole life. And now the idea of like, no, that's not really true and that doesn't exist. It's hard for the mind to imagine. But here in Thailand, they actually understand this. Their language was created about 300 to 500 years ago. And when they talk, they actually talk in the third person. So they don't say things like, I am hungry. They will say, David is hungry. Or like when my son would come home from school, I wouldn't say, how was your day at school? If I'm speaking in Thai, I would say, how was Bailan's day at school? And this helps you to be able to realize non-self, that you disassociate with this I. Because what the mind's going to be doing is saying things like, I am hungry. That's not true. There's no I here. What's truly happening is the body needs food. That's the true reality. There's no I here. Or someone might say, I am angry. That's not true because there's no I here. What's true reality is the mind is experiencing anger. That's true reality. But the English language is really unfitting to describe what it is that we're experiencing. So the Thai language was created around this understanding of Buddhism. In fact, the Thai government is set up this way too. If as a Thai person you would like to change your name, you can actually go down to the government and probably in about 20 minutes, you can change your name. But if you like to change your name in a Western country, oh, it's a big challenge, right? So Thais understand that none of these things are you, but each one of us was given a label at birth. My label was David, right? And all of you guys have labels too. And that's where your mind assigns all this personality and character. And now the idea that that's not true, it can be scary. It can be fearful for the mind because the mind's not getting what it wants, because the mind wants to hold on to this thing. And when you're having to let it go, the mind experiences fear. And that's what you're going to see in the Four Noble Truths of why that's the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure who's first or second. Sure, go for it. Mm-hmm. Is it working?
Yes, now
Yeah,
it is.
okay.
Thank you. This is really amazing. So for this section on this contentedness, you asked, have we had other feelings? And I think if I understood correctly, you're saying that they all fit in there, but I feel like there are many that don't. For example, like what came to me was feeling enough or whole or content, like a neutral feeling that's positive. Is that the opposite of is that actually what we're striving for, is to just feel content and enough, and we just haven't gotten to that part? Or can you explain that?
Contentedness is a mental quality that is just always there. There's not based on any condition. Some of the other things you were talking about, like neutral, because content, I wouldn't describe it as neutral, but some of the things that are neutral would fit under this category of neither painful nor pleasant. That if there's truly a neutral feeling, it's not pleasant, it's not painful, it's neither painful nor pleasant. But the things that are described that you're acquiring as part of the path to enlightenment, that contentedness, it's unconditioned. There's no condition that is met in order to experience the contentedness, but So it doesn't fit into this because it's not part of a conditioned feeling. It's an unconditioned mental quality that you can experience all day long, where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. It's content. You don't need anything in order to feel content. So if you've ever sat and like looked at a landscape and you're sitting on a bench and you're like, wow, I could just sit here all day. I don't need anything at all. I'm just completely content and satisfied just sitting here doing nothing. That's an unconditioned mental state. But because the mind is unenlightened, it's only a matter of time before it's like, oh, I got to go. I don't want to leave, because the mind's holding on, right? But the enlightened mental state, you can be peaceful and joyful and have that contentedness at all times. There doesn't need to be any condition met for that to occur. These are conditioned feelings, where contentedness is unconditioned mental quality.
Got it. So like the enough feeling or contentedness, I love the example of the bench. That's the opposite. That's actually what the teachings are going for.
Yeah, that's not what this
Got
is. This is describing the problem
Got it.
that the mind goes up and down based on a condition, where the contented mental state is unconditioned.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. I got two questions. The first question, when you talk about the neither painful or the pleasant one, and I just realized that the shyness is on these categories, and then I think I think about my daughter, because since she was 5 years old, when I try to ask her to do something, she will always tell me, "I'm shy, mom," and before I thought shyness is painful feeling. So if like, how should I? My question is, how should I educate her? If because I can tell she will feel behind when she feels shyness to not to do something. So what should I like guide her to do if she got this feeling?
Sure. Her shyness is coming from personal existence view, which is what we were just talking about, because the mind wants to be perceived in a certain way. And that's the way that the unenlightened mind works. How to eliminate that and all that kind of stuff, let's talk after class so that I can stay focused on sharing the Four Noble Truths, and then I can give you that personal guidance. I oftentimes do give personal guidance during classes like this, but since we're really focused on getting to the core central teaching, once you understand the Four Noble Truths, then what I share with you as guidance for her will actually make more sense.
All right. So I got another question for myself. Just now when you share the case about the tipper, and then I suddenly realized that I got like some same situation because I work as a personal trainer, and every time when I go traveling, I feel stressed because I can't work out, I can't eat properly, and then I feel shame and guilt when someone asks me, "What do you work?" And then if that moment I don't feel my body look great or perfect, and then I just feel so bad. And then it caused me the painful feeling. And then I will happen the emotion eating. It get worse.
Yeah.
So if that situation come, what should I do? How do I deal with that?
Same thing. Let's talk about the Four Noble Truths first, because then you understand what's causing this, and then we can talk about the solution to be able to help you. Because it's the whole Eightfold Path that is the solution, but you need to first understand right view to be able to solve that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of questions coming in here on Zoom. Raphael is asking, you mentioned that what you are looking for is unconditional mental clarity. Can you elaborate on this? So in the unenlightened state, you can only experience these feelings based on some condition. That's why ultimately this is dissatisfying, to experience conditioned happiness. That if you can only be happy when your bank account balance is here, then that means when it's any other place that the mind doesn't feel happy anymore. Or if you can only be happy when it's sunny outside, the sun is not permanent. So therefore, you can only be happy when it's sunny outside. You're limiting your ability to be happy. This is a conditioned feeling, and you would like to get to the point where your mind's just always cheerful, it's always bright, it's always glad, it's always happy. And that's what the Buddha's guiding you to, where there doesn't need to be any condition to be met to experience these unconditioned mental qualities. And then we have a question here from Kate. She's saying how to answer or deal with when people feel you are getting blasé, half-hearted by following these rules. The teachings of the Buddha aren't rules. And if people are having expectations of you that you should function a certain way, that's their craving, desire, attachment, which you're going to learn about in a moment. You're not causing them to feel a certain way, but let me explain that here in a moment. Or even could I myself experience that feeling on the way, feeling half-hearted instead of equanimous? Thank you. Yeah, as you're training your mind to get to enlightenment, there can be periods of time where your mind is not feeling this bright cheerfulness, right? Your mind is not going to go from what we're describing here straight to the peace and the joy. The mind swings back and forth for a while because the mind's chasing, getting pleasant feelings. And when it's not doing that, it'll typically swing all the way to the other side. And that's kind of like what you're describing. But there's this middle way that you need to be able to train your mind towards. So let me keep going here and explaining more of these teachings, and then we can get into some more depth, which is what some of you guys are asking for. So once you start to understand these three universal truths and you independently verify them, there's one more thing that I need to teach you as a building block, then we can get into the Four Noble Truths. So craving, desire, attachment, expectations, wants, holding, grasping, clinging. This is the mind longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection, wanting things to be a certain way. The mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst. The mind's like, I don't feel good here. What do I need to feel happy? Oh, let me go shopping. That'll fix everything. Let me go to the mall and buy some shoes. And now you're walking through the mall and you see the shoes. You're like, oh, new pair of shoes. I want to get those on my feet so bad. And then you go into the store and they have your shoes and you're so happy and excited, right? But then if you go into the shoe store and they don't have your shoes, you're frustrated or irritated or annoyed. And then the mind's like, what do I need to be happy here? More money. That's what'll fix everything. Let me go chase that for a while. Or what do I need? A new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. That'll fix everything. Let me get one of those. And now the mind will chase that for a while. And then the mind's like, I was happy at the beginning when I had the boyfriend or girlfriend, but now I'm frustrated and angry. What can I do to fix this? Go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. Let me go to Thailand, right? And now you might go to Thailand thinking that's going to fix everything, right? So do you guys know what I'm talking about? How the mind's longing, yearning, thinking something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. You've seen this in your mind? Okay, so that's what this is. It's not the object itself. It's not the shoes that is the craving, desire, attachment. It's the way that the mind's longing, yearning for the shoes. Okay, so now we can explore the Four Noble Truths. This is where you can have a real breakthrough to understanding what your mind's doing. So the first Noble Truth is explaining the problem. The problem that everyone's experiencing is that the unenlightened mind will experience discontentedness, conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, the mind is going to experience a feeling, either pleasant, painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. The mind is forming its feelings on some condition. This is the problem, that the mind's going up and down, up and down, up and down. The second Noble Truth is explaining the cause of that problem. Discontentedness is caused by our own cravings, desires, attachments, because the mind wants everything to be permanent when everything in the world is impermanent. I'm going to say that a few times and I'm going to give you some examples because you're going to need to independently verify this for yourself. You can't believe what I'm sharing. So that discontent feelings, the pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant, they're being caused by craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection. And if it gets what it wants and what it expects, it experiences happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria, some pleasant feeling. But then if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And then there's the neither painful nor pleasant feelings as well. The mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be permanent while you live in an impermanent world. So let's take a few examples. Think back to a boyfriend or girlfriend that you guys got together with. When you guys first got together, you were probably so happy, so excited. This person was showing you affection. They were calling you and checking in on you. Maybe you're going to the movies, going to dinner. Maybe you're going to the park, taking nice walks, having great conversations. Maybe you're even having intimate contact and having sex, and you're experiencing all this pleasure. But then over time, the relationship slowly deteriorated, and now you guys might have broke up. And then you were angry or sad or frustrated. Maybe you were lonely or bored or missing this person. This wasn't your love. Oftentimes people think it's love that's causing this. This is the mind craving permanence. So while we call this craving for permanence, that's what the mind's doing. The other way to say this is the mind doesn't like impermanence. It doesn't like change. When things are changing, the mind doesn't like that. So the idea of grandma or grandpa dying, the mind's not getting what it wants. And now the mind grieves or has sorrow or sadness because the mind's not getting what it wants, which is grandma and grandpa to be alive. You might have seen this if you went to a wedding. Maybe parents or brothers and sisters were crying or grieving at a wedding, right? This person's going off into the world with somebody else, and that represents impermanence, that the mind thinks, that's my brother. That's my sister. How dare you take them away from me? The mind's craving permanence, right? And now this person's going off into the world with someone else. Or if you could think back to when you went to school, or maybe you had children, you dropped off your children at school, you might have noticed that the children are crying and grieving, or even the parents might be crying and grieving. This is because the mind's craving permanence. The child thought mom and dad were permanent, and here they go out into the world all by themselves. And the parents are doing the same thing, that the mind's oftentimes holding on. Love is a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. Well, if your kids are going off to school, it would be like, yeah, they're going off to school. This is wonderful. This is great. They're going to get an education. You'd be happy and pleased about that. But that's not what the mind has. The mind has this craving, this desire, this craving for permanence. And now when this child's going off to school, the parents can oftentimes be grieving. So you might have seen that when you got dropped off at university, or if you can remember when you got dropped off at school, or if you've ever seen this occur, you might see a lot of grieving. Here's another example that doesn't involve relationships that might be easier for you to see this. Think if you got a brand new car, that you've been saving up your money for this brand new car. It's your dream car. You've always been wanting this car, and you finally purchase it and you drive it off the parking lot, and everyone's like, wow, look at her. She's so successful. And you're driving your car, and they're, wow, look at him. Wow, he's so successful. And you're driving your car so proud, and you take it and you park it at a store, and you go inside and you come out and there's a scratch on your car. Oh my gosh, you might be so frustrated or angry. It's not the scratch that's causing this. And it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing the anger and frustration is the mind craving permanence. The mind wants this car to look permanently beautiful, when in reality, that's not possible because you live in an impermanent world. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is going to get a scratch at some point. It's only a matter of time. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. This is impermanence. And when your mind craves permanence, when all of this change is happening, your mind's not going to like that. I can give you example after example after example, right? Think about when we were children. It was like, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? Sure, little David, here's your chocolate and ice cream. Ah, thank you so much, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. And then the second day comes around, you're like, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? Sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. Wow, you're so great. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. And then the third day comes along. It's like, can I have chocolate and ice cream? No, you can't have chocolate. You're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever. Well, all that's happened here is impermanence. It's just change. That the mind was craving and longing, yearning for that chocolate and ice cream. And if you got what you wanted, you were happy and excited about that. But when you didn't get what you wanted, you got angry and frustrated. It's the same thing that's happening with the sun. If you get really happy and excited with the sun, when it rains, you'll be frustrated or annoyed. Or when you get really happy and excited when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll be sad and frustrated. The only thing that's happened is change. That's it. It's just impermanence. That's all that's happened is change. But the mind craves permanence. It doesn't understand impermanence. It doesn't understand change, that the mind is constantly changing and the world is constantly changing. You can look at your life and see that all the times where you've had the most difficulties and struggles in your life, it's when things were changing. When you were changing jobs, when you were changing relationships, when you were changing living locations, those were the most difficult times for you because your mind didn't like that change. Even though you were making the decision to do those things, your mind didn't like that. So you need to look at this in your own life to be able to see the truth for yourself. So take a recent situation. This is your independent verification that what I'm sharing with you is true. Take a recent situation where you've been angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes. What was it that you were longing, yearning for? What were you craving? What were you wanting or expecting? And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy about that or excited. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you were angry or sad or frustrated. And if you have difficulty seeing this, let me know because I will help you. I've had plenty of students ask me questions over the years because what I'm sharing with you is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. It's not the outside world. But your mind's going to firmly believe that it's the outside world. And when you believe that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, you will act unskillfully. When you don't understand the second noble truth, that's where you'll push people away, thinking that they're the ones who are causing your feelings, because those painful feelings are uncomfortable. And the mind's trying to get back to something that feels comfortable. And it thinks if I just push this person away, that'll solve my problem. But it didn't solve your problem. You still get angry. You still get frustrated or annoyed. Or you might push a situation away. The second thing you might do is be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear that person into doing things your way. It's like, do things my way. The mind's trying to get its cravings fulfilled. Or the third thing you'll do is put your expectations on people and try to control them or pressure them to do things your way. And as long as you're doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all beings because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. Because the mind wants everybody to do it this way. And if you do it this way, I'm happy and I'm excited and I like you. You're wonderful to spend time with. But if you don't do things my way, I don't like you. That's what the unenlightened mind does. And that dislike is coming from your own mind. Oftentimes people think that dislike is coming from the other person, but it's actually coming from your own mind because you have expectations and you're craving this permanence, wanting everyone to do things a certain way. One time I had a student contact me. They said, David, I know that I am not causing my own discontentedness. I know you teach that I'm causing it myself, but I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. And I came home and my wife had this craft project all over the house. I didn't cause this discontentedness. I wasn't even there. She's the one who caused my discontentedness. She's the one who messed up the house. I was like, no, it was your own mind. They were like, how was it my own mind? I said, well, you were craving permanence. Your house looked a certain way when you went to work, and you were craving for it to look exactly the same way when you came home. All you experienced was impermanence. All that was change. But your mind craved permanence. And just like your house can't look that way permanently, this craft project that your wife has all over the house, that's not permanent either. She will put it away. And maybe you'll help her too, right? So your mind is going to be constantly craving permanence and trying to tell you that it's other people who are causing these feelings, when in reality, it's your own mind. And you need to be able to see that, because I'm sure you've been in knockdown, drag out arguments where you've tried to convince somebody that they have to stop doing what they're doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry and frustrated. And this is like the eye-opening moment where you can have a breakthrough. Every single time you've ever been angry, you've ever been frustrated, you've ever been irritated, it's been your own mind all along. And I know that your mind might think otherwise, but you need to be able to peer into this and be able to see the truth for yourself. Because if you keep thinking that it's other people that are causing these feelings, you'll never actually be able to solve it. You'll never actually be able to fix it. So that's why you need to independently verify this through your own direct experience. And if you need help, let me know and I will help you when we get to the question period. Once you understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, that's very empowering. Because if it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, then you understand that you can eliminate them. And that's what the third noble truth is explaining to you. That if you would like to eliminate your discontentedness, all you need to do is eliminate the craving, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection, forming your feelings on whether you get this thing or not. And you can independently verify this, that you can be peaceful and joyful when you don't have craving, desire, attachment. Because remember that boyfriend or girlfriend that you were with, that when you guys broke up, you were angry or frustrated or lonely or bored, or you were missing that person? Well, at some point your mind let go. And when you let go, that's where your peace and your joy came back, right? You were like, if he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world and she doesn't want to live here near me, okay, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. But your mind doesn't know how to let go. And that's where the fourth noble truth comes in. The Buddha has a plan and a path that is going to train your mind how to let go. It's called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching that's going to train you to be able to let go. And you need to implement each one of these factors in order to be able to train your mind to let go. Sure, there's meditation training that's part of that, but there's other parts too. Meditation is a component of your practice, but there's all these other things that you need. Oftentimes people put a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus on meditation, but you will never meditate your way to enlightenment. It's not possible. You need other teachings besides meditation. Meditation is only one component of your practice. You need other aspects of the wisdom of the Buddha in order to be able to train your mind to enlightenment. If it was only meditation that's going to lead to enlightenment, that's all the Buddha would ever taught. But we have 45 volumes of books that are this thick. That is the largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha. He taught plenty more than just meditation. That's just one component of it. So right view is to have the right view that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Wrong view would be to blame other people for the feelings that you're having. And as long as you have wrong view, you will never solve your anger. You will walk around being angry and frustrated, irritated your whole life. So you need to establish right view where you can see and independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And what I encourage you to do once you establish right view and you can see this truth for yourself is now and forever, whenever your mind's angry or sad or frustrated or any other discontent feeling, rather than looking around for someone else to blame, because that's what the mind will do, look inward. Try to figure out, what am I longing and yearning for here? What is the mind wanting and expecting that it's not getting? Because this is real empowering, because when you start looking inward, you can actually eliminate this from the mind. And you can eliminate that longing and yearning and understand impermanence. So I'm going to pause here and see what questions you guys have on these Four Noble Truths. Do you guys have any questions here? No questions? Okay. If you guys don't have any questions, I will now move to this second factor of the Eightfold Path, which is called right intention. It won't take me the same amount of time to teach this to you. Right view takes a bit, but right intention is really straightforward, and it doesn't take as long. But you really need to take your time with right view to be able to establish right view. So here's the words of the Buddha on right intention. In what, monks, is right intention? The intention of renunciation, the intention of non-ill will, the intention of harmlessness. This, monks, is called right intention. Some people call this right thinking or right thought, because this is what you're developing in your mind, is the intention of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. What renunciation is that you're willing to let go and give up your false ideas, your false beliefs, your false opinions, your false views, and your unwholesomeness. There's a certain amount of unwholesome moral conduct that you have right now, where you might be bitter and harsh and hostile with people. You need to be willing to eliminate that and let that go. There's certain false beliefs, opinions, and views that you have right now that you need to be willing to let go of. If you're angry and frustrated, if you're experiencing sadness and all these other discontent feelings, there's a certain lack of wisdom that your mind has. Otherwise, you wouldn't be experiencing those feelings. One of the very first false opinions, false views that you need to be able to eliminate, one of the false beliefs that you need to eliminate, is the belief that other people are causing you to experience these feelings. You need to be willing to let that go. But the way that the teachings of the Buddha work is you're not bringing in new beliefs to get rid of old beliefs. That's not what you're doing. You're bringing in wisdom. And when you bring in this wisdom and you see the truth about what he's teaching you, now you can let go of these false beliefs that you've been walking around with throughout your entire life, because those are hindering you from being able to see the truth and cultivate wisdom. So if the mind's practicing the intention of renunciation, it's willing to let go of its false beliefs, false ideas, and false views. It's keeping an open mind to understand that you currently don't know everything there is to know about this world, and there's more for you to understand. And you need to be willing to let go of your unwholesomeness too, because there's a certain amount of unwholesome moral conduct that you have that needs to be improved. Because as long as you're being unwise in the way that you interact with people through your moral conduct, all of that's going to come back to you. Then the second aspect of this is the intention of non-ill will. Ill will is bitterness and harshness and hostility. The non-ill will is the opposite of that. It's goodwill. That's the way English works, is when you see a double negative, it's a positive. So non-ill will is goodwill. So you're going to need the intention or the thinking or the thought of goodwill towards all beings, that you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And then that moves into the intention of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. As long as you're causing harm to others, harm is going to come back to you. Now, you just heard me share with the Four Noble Truths that you cause your own discontent feelings because of craving, desire, attachment. The same thing is true about other people. If other people are blaming you for their anger and sadness and frustration and other discontent feelings, you're not causing their discontentedness. Their mind is causing it themselves. You can't cause other people to be discontent, but you can cause them harm. What causing harm to someone is to cause harm to their material possessions, to their physical body, or their reputation. If you cause harm to someone's physical body, their material possessions, or their reputation, they're going to want to cause you harm back. This is the natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result. So whenever you're putting out harm, harm is just going to come back to you. So the Buddha is teaching you not to cause harm to other beings, to practice harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. He's going to teach you in the moral conduct section next week on Sunday how to not cause harm through your speech, your actions, and your livelihood. He's going to teach you the wise decision-making around how to make sure that you're not causing harm. But here in this wisdom section of the Eightfold Path, you need to cultivate the wisdom of the intention or the thinking or the thought that you're going to practice harmlessness towards others. That you have the thinking or the thought or the intention of renunciation, where you're willing to let go and give up your false ideas, false beliefs, false opinions and views, and your unwholesome moral conduct, and the intention to have non-ill will or goodwill towards all beings, and the intention of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm. Because this forms the foundation of everything else that you're going to learn about how to transform your mind. So just as a little bit of a recap here, and then I'll just open up for any final questions, is right view is the Four Noble Truths, and accepting responsibility for your own feelings, intentions, speech, and actions. Oftentimes people blame this on other people. I'm sure you've done this to a certain degree, is blamed other people for your own feelings and your own speech and your own actions and the way that you interact in the world. But you need to be able to see that it's coming from your own mind. It's not other people that are causing this. If it was other people that was causing you to experience certain things in the world, you could never change anything about your life. You could never eliminate your anger and frustration because it's other people who are causing it, and you can't force them or control them to do things a certain way. But when you see that it's your own mind that's causing these, this is very empowering, because now you can actually fix it, right? And that's what the Buddha is going to give you the solution for. So you need to have responsibility and accountability for what's going on within your own mind. Then there's right intention, which is the practice of the intention or the thinking or the thought of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness, where you're willing to let go of your false ideas, false beliefs, false opinions and views, because there's a lot of wisdom that you need to cultivate on this path, and you would never be able to cultivate that wisdom if you just hold on to what you currently think about the world. And then there's the intention of non-ill will, where you have goodwill or a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, and the intention or the thinking or the thought of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm. So let me know what questions you guys have on anything that I've been sharing with you this morning. No questions? Okay. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say thank you for coming to learn. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop on the path to enlightenment. Because by you learning and growing and developing on the path, you're essentially becoming a better and better human being. That's what the Buddha is teaching you to do. That in the unenlightened state as a human being, we function very much like an animal. We are not animals. We are human beings. But the unenlightened mind functions very much like an animal, where we fight and we're hostile and we're bitter and we have those kinds of things and we interact with people in that kind of way. But you can become this better and better human being through training of your mind. And whenever people come here to learn like this, I'm very appreciative and I very much admire people who are willing to do the hard work to learn and grow and develop on the path. Because it's very easy to go to a place where there's just rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, where there's a bunch of beliefs. That's really easy to go and participate in those kinds of things. But then later, your life is very difficult because you haven't cultivated any wisdom to be able to improve the way you function in the world. It's much more challenging to come to a place like this where you're learning things that conflict with what you currently think about the world. And you're needing to think about what it is that's being shared with you. And you're needing to cultivate this wisdom and work to train your mind. That's a lot more challenging up front. But then life becomes easier and easier as you cultivate the wisdom of how to navigate this world through that wisdom. So thank you for your dedication to learning and growing and developing to become a better and better person, because it's helping you. It's helping those close to you because you're not causing harm. And then it's helping all of humanity become a kinder, gentler, warmer, and better place to exist. So thank you for your dedication to learning and growing and developing. And as you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to. This evening at 6:30 in the main hall, I'm going to be teaching meditation, where I'm going to be doing breathing mindfulness meditation. And then I'm just going to open up to whatever questions students have. So you're welcome to come to that at 6:30. It kind of syncs up with the Sunday night walking market if you usually go to that or if you'd like to go to that. And then tonight at 9 p.m., I'm going to be teaching this exact same thing here at 9 p.m. So if there's other people that would like to come, they're welcome to come. And as you guys probably know, I live stream all my classes. So as you guys travel, you can continue to learn and grow and develop on this path. If you would like to find the way to get into our live stream, just visit our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, or you can come talk to me and I'll get you plugged into the resources that you need, because you can continue to learn in this program as you travel about the world. All the resources are available for you at no cost. On Wednesday, I'll also be doing meditation here in the classroom, and then I'll open up for questions that students have. And on Fridays, we have Temple Fun Night, where we come together at 6 p.m. and we kind of have like a little party where we come together and we play games, we listen to music. Sometimes we order food or people bring food. So if you'd like to come hang out on Friday, you're more than welcome to do that each Friday at 6 p.m. And then next weekend, we have classes on Saturdays and Sundays. Those are our regular classes, Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And I'm even going to be starting a retreat next Sunday at 3 p.m. And then it's going to last all week long, where there's a retreat that I'm going to be teaching everything that students need to be able to get to the first stage of enlightenment. So you can come to a portion of that or the entire retreat. It's really up to you. But if you'd like details on that, it's also on our website, or you can come and talk to me and I'll help you. So whatever you choose to do, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps I'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.